Welcome back to the grim darkness of the 41st Millennium. I am Inquisitor Caveat Ventus, keeper of the Inquisition's Black Library, and this is my report on the Valentyne Heresy, an actual play podcast set in the Genesys adaptation of Warhammer 40,000's Dark Heresy RPG. This report features Game Master Tom McGee, Ryan LaPlante as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Laura Elizabeth as Lyric, and Tyler Hewitt as Alto. My report shows that the Inquisitorial Band left the Gnashers behind and made their way into the Astral Line. Lyric found herself sharing the Inquisitor's visions. Valentyne was forced to defend the shuttle with a snack cart, and Alto flew the group away from the Doom planet just in time. What will happen now that they no longer face imminent danger? Find out next in this episode of the Valentyne Heresy.
A conversation recorded by a passing servo skull near the Imperium Records Room in a small, lesser-known bureaucratic place on Terra. Oh yeah, so we gotta update the maps to not include Galen's Glory. In Vermeer, right? You know that one? Oh, fine. Wait, what? That thing's still around? Well, shit. I thought it got destroyed like the other ones. No, it was still around, but now we got to erase it and pretend it wasn't ever there. Oh, yeah, all right. Well, I guess it'll just join the other colonies in the list of great disasters by idiotic, hubristic architects. And then they laughed and walked down the hall. Needless to say, the hubristic architect was not too pleased to receive this report. Meanwhile, you have broken the atmosphere and have left Vermeer behind. And I would like to say that your trip was a smooth one and that there were no problems. But this is a grim future where there is only war. Exiting the planet, Valentyne, you can see that there are a number of screens that are showing, those like maps that you get on an airplane that show you kind of how far your plane has gone to its destination that are just completely fucking useless, but also you can't look away.
Yep.
There's a bunch of those, which incidentally...
The thing I panic watch because I'm bad at flying?
Yeah, those things. They're showing that the Astral Line is basically, you're just in line to another planet. The destination seems to be a place called Galen's Dream. It seems to be another one of these dome emplacements. Now, you have never heard of any of these, but that doesn't surprise you entirely because the galaxy is a tremendously vast place. Also, you were not destined for this system. Because I accidentally said it 2 episodes ago, it will be true. This is the Vermeer system that was Vermeer Prime. The other planets are named other things, but you didn't intend to stop in Vermeer, so unfortunately, you didn't have a savant or anyone else give you...
Yeah, I wasn't briefed on this.
Yeah. Also, the mission you were on, like, you weren't an Inquisitor when you left. You're an Inquisitor on the way back. But nevertheless, this whole sector is completely foreign to you. But at the very least, you have a destination, and hopefully that planet has a bit more going on than just a hive world, and you can find some way to get back. That said, the reason that you're so unprepared for all of this is because of whatever this warp anomaly was. You can remember being aboard the Fist of Gilead. You can remember kind of up until there was a flash of light, a screaming, rending sound of metal, and then you were in the throne room. So you've now, I think, pieced together enough that there was some kind of warp incident. You have no memory of what it was, but looking out the window now, you can 100% see what it was, because there is essentially a scar across the black vastness of space. It's small by celestial standards, but it crackles with purple energy, and you can see it slowly starting to seal back up. Just as you watch it, the edges are slowly kind of creeping inward. But based on what you know of the Great Rift and of kind of the particularly heightened concern about chaos incursion and warp incursion, it would seem that your transport likely encountered this small tear, this miniature rift, and was kind of jettisoned out of the warp in a less than pleasant way. As you know, this is a risk of any ship that uses the warp, but most technology will let you get around it. Unfortunately, in this case, it did not. So this is something that is highly concerning to you, because if this thing is still open right now, both the ship that has arrived to destroy Galen's glory and the Emperor's... is it Emperor's Dream? Emperor's Hope.
Emperor's Hope.
Emperor's Hope are both under threat of this Chaos Rift. And as much as you trust Alto to fly it, you don't necessarily trust him to understand just how fucking dangerous a warp rift is. What do you do?
I imagine when we got into space, we're not shaking so hard. Because
the shaking is stopped. There's a moment of weightlessness, and then the artificial gravity kicked in. So you can now, whereas it was a vertical tube, it is now really the easiest way to think of this is as a large passenger airliner. Remember those? We used to be able to fly.
Yeah, basically, I'd go up to the cockpit with Eugene and be like, hello, friends, quick conversation. So that thing right there, you may have heard of the Eye of Terror, and I think we could consider this the paper cut of terror. At the same time, it's very likely to be able to destroy all of us in tremendously dangerous and deadly fashion. Is there any way we could alter our route to perhaps go as far as, I believe you say, fucking possible from that thing over there?
I don't see why not. That seems like a good idea.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. The reason we call this here voyage the Astral Line is that, well, we kind of fly by wire, as it were. So our friend here, Alto the Kid, is keeping us pretty much on track, and that is a necessary function. But unfortunately, we are kind of pre-programmed for a set arc. I agree. We do seem, as you put it, fucked. So, Alto, if there is some way your map boy skills could replot a course that doesn't take us into this here paper cut of terror, I would greatly appreciate that. I may just be a weird spaceship guy, but we always, back in the Guard, we always heard about the Eye of Terror, and that is no laughing matter, nor would it seem is this here paper cut.
So Alto will look up and say, Inquisitor Valentyne, you got a specific destination other than the fuck out of here? Maybe we can plug in and figure out how to get to?
I would say the closest planet that has a spaceport, because then I can get us a ship that'll get us out of this system. All right, just, Acri, is that your name? I think I overheard it. My skull is picking up the occasional word.
Oh, that would be Eugene, right? Seems
Yes,
like
Eugene.
a great little skull.
Well, we grew up together, him and I. So, here's the deal. Could you give us an astrogation chart of the system? I feel like between this young man's knowledge of mathematics and flight and my knowledge of the forbidden elements of the warp, we could perhaps come up with a way to get through this safely.
Cool. So he uploads a chart of the system. For just the ease of our own brains, I'm going to describe this in a geographic pattern, geometric pattern that we can all kind of wrap our heads around. This is not to suggest that this is how the system is organized, just that there's no cleaner way to talk about it. So I'd like to think about this system as a pentagon. The sun is at the center of the pentagon. For the ease of our purposes, we're going to, and you might need to write this down with me. So if you draw a pentagon kind of with the point facing north,
Yep.
We're going to call that 1. If you follow to the right, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1 is Vermeer Prime, which you just left.
Okay.
You are currently en route to number 2, which is a planet called Esys. ESYS. To alter course in a way that wouldn't run the risk of running out of fuel or anything else, you can probably reroute. So Esys is 2. You could probably reroute to 3. Or sorry, to 5 rather. Jesus, I'm so sorry. This is such a confusing system. You could reroute to 5 or 3. 4,
So
you
we
would have
go
to
to
cross
Esys,
directly through the sun.
Or what's the name of 5?
So Isis is 2. That's where you're currently headed. 5 is Tren. 3 is the... I'll explain what the issues are in a second. 3 is not. So basically, the challenge you have is this. The Astral Line isn't a fully functioning spacecraft. It's not built to be able to navigate tremendously well. You can't go explore space in it. It's really meant almost to be a missile that's launched from one location to another. So there were, back in Acri's kind of activation days, records of a spaceport on Tren, which is number 5. However, that will require drastically altering your velocity and direction, which might actually tear the ship apart. You are currently headed for Isis. That will take you perilously close to the Paper Cut of Terror. Or you could aim for Not, which, being number 3 on the Pentagon, is actually roughly the same trajectory as 2, just altered by a few degrees. From there, this ship basically has enough fuel for one trip. So from there, you can catch a separate ride to Tren. But basically, I guess the question before you is, do you want to take the riskiest possible route to try and alter course and make it to Tren? Or do you want to go to Not first? Or do you just want to risk the paper cut, go to Isis, and then fly from Isis to Tren? That's a lot of words I made up in a very fast amount of time that now have tremendous import to the story. So up to you.
Tom, looking at this map, how long would it take us to get to Tren versus to go to Not and then to Tren?
It would likely...
I only say this because the Inquisitor's math would be high risk bad, but I only have a year.
Yeah. The system isn't huge. So we're kind of talking like probably a week to Not, a week to Tren, 2 weeks to Not.
So
and then 2 weeks to Not, and then a week from Not to Tren. So 3 weeks ultimately round trip to get to Tren safely, or risk breaking the ship in half, get there in a week.
I'm going to need to call a team meeting. If everyone could join me, just let's go to the area where realistically Lyric already is, for Lyric has a broken leg and doesn't need to be wandering around in space. Do we have artificial gravity, Tom, or are we floating?
Yep, there's artificial gravity, 100%.
Well, good. Then we'll just float out to you.
And Laura, can you go ahead and roll me... Let's say a willpower and discipline. Difficulty of 4.
Oh, geez. Yeah, I can do that.
You have 2 story points available to you.
Let's just see what happens. 2 successes and 2 threats.
Okay. So I'm going to say you managed to bind up your leg into an improvised brace. Valentyne has been up in the cockpit. You found a first aid kit. It's actually fancier than you're used to, which is a weird... this isn't like a John McClane, like, I got to make do with what I got. Your whole life has been make do with what you got. So it's actually kind of, I think, almost uncomfortable to have nice Band-Aids. Like,
you mean like I don't have to like tear up a piece of clothing and like sterilize it and wrap it around something?
Yeah, it actually kind of feels like tremendously wasteful to have fabric that only exists for bandage purposes. But it means that you're able to put together not a great, but like a manageable brace. So you're able to...
Was the bullet a through and through?
Yeah. It dinged,
that's nice.
It dinged the bone, but
it's not stuck in it.
No, it's more just it just hurts like a bitch.
Yeah. Okay.
So you managed to stuff it back up and kind of create an improvised brace. That said, because you rolled some threat, I'm going to say that you did manage to you beat the difficulty level, so you managed to get it. You've got a brace in your leg. It's still a stiff leg, so you're still kind of limping. That said, because of the threat, I'm going to say that there is a chance it'll break if you try and do anything too strenuous.
Okay.
Yeah. Because there's obviously not a proper medical facility, and if you broke your leg on an airplane, they wouldn't be like, oh, well, come on in. Here's an air brace. Cool. So yeah, the two of you make your way into kind of the cabin to find Lyric up and about. And I think doing that thing that I know I always do when I fuck up my knee, which is like aggressively walk around a room a few times to prove that my knee brace is working.
You mean like what Laura does?
I was gonna say aggressively float around a cabin with no anti-gravity.
Sorry,
or was
there is gravity.
Okay, cool.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. There's I don't. It's largely just because I played the game for a long time. I have a hard time thinking about anti-gravity in the 40K universe because the models have faces and they always have flock on them. So that means the ground. I am well aware there is anti-gravity, but for now, I think, again, it's now that you're up in the air.
They're grav. I like it.
Yeah.
All right, friends. If everyone could just... Well, we don't have a snack cart to use as a table because sometimes the Emperor provides. But why don't we all just take a seat? I feel like we need to have a conversation. So...
I stay standing.
Yeah.
I'm still leaning on the what is
rifle?
it, Laslock? Yeah.
Yeah.
Alto will just say, "Hey, Lyric, you okay?"
I mean, until I can get this looked at, I'm as okay as I'm gonna be. Yeah.
All right. You don't want to sit down?
No, I'll stand for this.
Oh, fine.
Also,
You can sit down, to be clear.
Alto is sitting for sure.
I
Alto's
feel like
put his feet up.
I also feel like weirdly, Alto, for the first time in your life, you're able to do a gym take to someone, and I think you managed like as she says that you just by chance catch Valentine's eye, and suddenly like again for pretty much the first time in your entire life, maybe when Kel was still around, but even then, I feel like Kel was probably. I feel like took care of you, but was like closer with Lyric. Because they were in the same complicated profession. You just catch Valentine's eye and you both have like a, okay. And it's actually really nice. You've never had someone to gym take to before.
Yeah.
And I just give him a nod, just knowingly. And then I'll take my cap off and say, so, for the sake of the beginning of this conversation, I'm going to remove my cap symbolically, but also... remove the thought of me as an Inquisitor and let's speak as people. What do you both think of the Emperor and of humanity? To be clear, no recriminations. I'm aware this feels like a thing where I might shoot you if you say the wrong thing. Not the deal. I actually need the truth right now.
What do you think people think of the Emperor out here?
I asked you the question because I don't actually care about what people think of the Emperor. I care very much about what you think of the Emperor.
Well, like a lot of people out here, we don't really think of the Emperor at all.
So you don't go to the legally mandated church services. You are in the, shall we say, underhive.
Well, I mean, that stuff can only be reinforced, or rather enforced, so many layers down into the hive until they don't really want folk going to those churches.
I'll also say...
we're more focused on, like, surviving.
Yeah, I'll say, and Valentyne, you wouldn't know this, but for the two of you, as hopefully my little prologues have started to reveal, Galen's Glory is essentially was written off as a failed experiment. So... well, it's perfectly reasonable for Valentyne to assume that under the aegis of the Imperium, you would, of course, go to this. I think for you guys, it's kind of like maybe upstairs, but like realistically, top of the hive, yes. Much below, and that's only because they keep doing it. But this was definitely like we lost contact with that colony a while ago. We're pretty sure it's done.
Yeah, in a Necromunda sense, in the Underhive, I think there are just cult gangs that like murder everyone saying they're all evil, and that's about it.
And admittedly, a lot of systems view the Emperor, view the Sun as the Emperor, who knows? But I think, for the two of you, No, honestly, I would argue that based on what we've said about Galen's glory, the Emperor feels kind of like all those posters, like an abstract thing that meant a lot to people who came before you, but means very, very little to the two of you.
Yeah, I think Alto will kind of summarize like all of that up into just asking like, is the Emperor a person?
The Emperor is a god and a person. A living divine powered by the Golden Throne. Imagine...
So should we be worshiping the Golden Throne if he's just powered by it?
No, the Golden Throne, it would be like saying you're ruled by the iron lung that keeps your governor alive rather than your governor who makes everything happen in a theoretically functional world, different situations, etc. How do you all feel about humanity in general?
I'm sorry, why are you asking? This just seems so irrelevant right now.
Yes. The explanation afterwards is going to be heavily based on your answer. So,
Also,
if you could just give me this one as, let's say, a gimme, and then I'll answer questions, and then I will answer questions in great depth. But,
Brian, the one piece I also want to give you that I don't think I was tremendously clear on is you are aware that she had a vision. You don't know what she saw, but you don't have psyker powers. Is that correct, or do you?
Oh God, no, nothing.
Yeah.
He read a ton about them. He has a ton of forbidden knowledge about them, but
So I think what basically happened was you've been conditioned to resist psychers, which means that you've been in contact with like inquisitorial, like sanctioned psychers who have done like mind invasions and shit on you. So you felt that same shock. And obviously you're aware that there are unidentified psychers and untrained psychers throughout the galaxy. Normally they're hunted down or sacrificed, but like whatever. But for you, you were aware that obviously Lyric has some untapped power she doesn't know about. But also I think just as you continue to kind of build your defense against her like wall of aggression, just be aware that you do know that she saw something. You don't know what, but that's just something you know.
yeah,
Carry
she hasn't
on with
brought
your
it up.
feud.
She hasn't brought it up yet, so I'm working around.
I
to
fully
it.
understand.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that Ryan, the player, knew that that was something Valentyne.
Which I wasn't sure that he knew she was there. Got it.
But it wasn't. I do want to be very, very clear, though, that you didn't look up and see her. You weren't sharing a vision, because that says something completely different that I don't want to say. You both saw something.
It's like knowing you're both in the dream in Inception, but you don't actually see each other. Yeah, got it.
Yeah,
Vaguely,
kind of.
yeah.
Basically, yes. It's two of you are playing multiplayer No Man's Sky. You're told you're in the same universe, but you can never meet.
That is a really good metaphor. Thank you. Okay. So what are your opinions on humanity?
I'm a human. I assume you're a human. My brother's a human. Everyone I've ever known is a human, except for those fucking leech people. And whatever, like, fucked chaos people we saw back there. So, I don't know, fucking thumbs up.
And you, Alto?
I mean,
The
you're
fuck
asking
is this?
questions. You're asking for answers that, like, I don't think we've ever really thought about. I mean, yeah, there's people like Lyric and Old Kel, but there's also people like the Gnasher gang. So, I don't know, mixed bag, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, that's actually a pretty honest answer and kind of what I was hoping for. So, here is the challenge. I am an Inquisitor. I don't know what you know about the Inquisition, but what it means is I speak with the voice of the Emperor, and it is my job to protect the Imperium from threats. Xenos, Malleus, and Hereticus. Alien, heretic, and tainted by the warp. The ultimate goal is just to make sure that humanity doesn't die a terrible death. All of us, torn apart, sacrificed to gods, eaten by aliens, etc. The key to that is keeping the Emperor alive, as you said. The throne is necessary. and we do terrible things to keep the throne functioning. The Emperor is going to die in a year. I've had visions as such.
Yeah, I know you put that fucking shit in my head.
I love that you think I put it in there, but here's an awkward truth. Someone has a little bit of a psycho power they weren't entirely aware of.
You're an Inquisitor. How the fuck could you not be aware of your own fucking power?
No. You don't understand. I'm not a psycho. I wish. It's totally permitted in my profession. It would be terribly useful. I read a great deal. Side note, I'll get you some books of Ravenous Spheres of Longing. Will teach you so much about who you are at your core. But you are in fact a latent psycho. It's stunning they didn't find you. I'm willing to bet once I get into my data slate, the black ships have not been through this system, perhaps ever. So congratulations. That church that you didn't attend would have had a real problem with you, so this is going to simplify things.
So what you're saying is we're both psychers.
No, not you, I don't think. Possibly.
No, well, she's my sister. It must be like a family thing, right?
Well, there are big questions about genetics. However, I expect a mind...
I'm
Yes?
sorry. How have I gone fucking 30 years without knowing I'm a psyker? This is ridiculous.
Alto, it's a classic thing that happens with kids kind of dealing with difficult situations. You remember Kel telling you a long, long time ago that even though Lyric's job is to keep you safe, and that's what she'll do, you have to keep her safe. So if anyone comes around asking about powers, you just laugh and you get them away from Lyric in any way you can. And it was a game to you when you were little. This wasn't something you really understood. And you only did it once, and it was with a local fanatical priest who just kept saying some weird word that didn't make a lot of sense to you. It was like Slaanesh or something. It didn't really make a whole ton of sense. But anyway, he got torn apart by the mob a few days later, so it didn't ultimately matter. But on that day, you made a big ruckus, and you kind of like ran off and distracted this guy. You only had to do it the once, and you thought it was a game. Now that Inquisitor Valentyne is laying this out, some of the things that Kel said to you and actually to Lyric are starting to come into focus. And you get the sense that Kel kind of knew exactly what to say and what to do to keep Lyric from ever realizing she had this ability. You remember watching her train and how much Kel just drove physical training into Lyric. It was a lot of like, like go with the fast bag, do it again, do it again, do it again. Like, okay, now like work the body bag, do it again, so on and so forth. And I think from the outside, and Lyric, for you, of course, this is all nonsense, but yeah. I think Alto is being on the outside of this and observing it. You suddenly realize that part of the reason that Kel drove Lyric so hard physically was so that she would never stop to actually consider this. And this is actually making a lot of sense to you. Also, you're probably a psyker too. Because
for sure.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, great.
Okay.
It is also up to you whether you bring this up or not. This could just be a thing,
I think that just manifests as like, what do psychers do?
Well, it depends on the psychers. There are several disciplines. Again, I've only read, but honestly, the strongest thing that suggests that you're a psyker is, you would have thought of it in this term, but you're alive. And I don't know if you realize, but as a 30-year-old human who lived in an underhive, you've never joined a gang, I'm willing to estimate. Your equipment was, frankly, garbage. And you are still alive. And the sheer amount of your capability and the luck you have shown is incredible. You stood up to a gang and then ambushed them successfully, even though they knew you were coming, and then your injuries are relatively minimal. You've probably done this your whole life. Your brother here has a mind impulse unit. I cannot describe how illegal and impressive this is. One of the reasons I made sure to save you from the wreck is you two shouldn't exist unless
there was something looking out for you that you're not aware of, the very nature of being a latent psyker. If you'd known what you were doing, you would have either turned yourself into a demon or exploded. Those are your options. Or someone would have shot you or enslaved you and then fed you to the Emperor. We're not going to go there. Right now, the Emperor is going to die in a year. I've shared a vision. I'm aware that you have seen this vision, Lyric, which is unpleasant. Side note, don't touch me. But that's what happened. Now, there is a slight chance that this vision is untrue. Because the warp. Basically, I don't need to go into a lot there. However, we've shared this vision, which means it's not created just by my mind. We survived a place we should not have survived. I have found people that should not exist, and we are here with our skill sets now. My job is to make sure the Emperor doesn't die. Because if the Emperor dies, humanity dies with him. This is an awkward truth. At the center of the entire empire, the Imperium, is the Astronomicon. Essentially, imagine we all travel through the warp because it lets us go faster than in space. It breaks all the rules. But that's sort of just like going into an ocean with no stars. You just dive in, get eaten by demons, or fall out wherever you are. Years later, hundreds of years later, probably dead, random. You need a North Star, and in the warp there is one star, and that's it. And that is the Astronomicon. It is fed by 1,000 psychers who all sing into it, but at the core of it is the active work of the Emperor. The Emperor is the most powerful psyker in human history. If he dies, the Astronomicon goes out, and every single human planet will lose contact with every single other human planet. And the only thing keeping the Imperium alive is the fact that we have a very large navy and a very large army and space marines, and they shoot everyone. It's delightful. Praise the Emperor. Thanks for that. But if the Astronomicon goes out, we have no navy, we have no ability to defend ourselves, and the Xenos and Chaos will overrun us instantly, because there will be no defense. So all of the people you hate will die horrible deaths. Seems like a nice time. But all of the people you like, including you, will have your souls torn from your body and fed to beasts.
So every planet will turn out like Galen's Glory?
And that would be the best case scenario. Which is why we need to keep the Emperor on his throne. I know there are 10 figures who will be stripping him from his throne from this vision. I imagine, Lyric, you saw the same thing. Here is an awkward fact, though. Bonus, you're not religious. That's wonderful. That is wonderful, because I've seen several of these people, and they seem to be significantly important. If you were religious, and then performing a collection of heresies and blasphemy and murdering them all. However, you don't believe in that religion. Again, good. You can be a functional necessity, and we can do things that religious people would find terrible, and I will find mildly abhorrent, and you will find a functional necessity. The Emperor gave me atheists to murder people that true loyalists would not let us murder to save humanity. What a gift. Again, thank you. Great job. We have a year. Right now, if we take a safe path, we take 2 weeks to get to a planet and a week to get to another planet. During that point, we have no intelligence, no information. We lose 1/12 of our time to hunt, and the Emperor is closer to death. I would have loved to avoid this conversation. You know, that would have been really funny if you'd let me do that, Emperor. But you know what? What a fun challenge to not allow it. Because I need you to do the math so we can do an incredibly dangerous journey that only takes a week. I can't do that math on my own, which is why we needed to have this whole conversation, and I've told you several secrets that literally only I can pardon you from having heard.
Okay,
So,
let me get this straight.
thoughts?
We're some kind of suicide squad?
Our thrones are worth nothing, correct?
There is a value in many things. We can probably convert it for systems where thrones aren't accurate. They're used throughout certain parts of the sector and other parts no. Here's the interesting thing about having an Inquisitor. Money's less important than you think.
I'll also say, Valentyne, what you know is that thrones has kind of come to mean whatever currency... Everyone thinks their currency are thrones. It's kind of the way that dollars has become a lot of nations that just kind of print their own money.
The Australian dollar, the Canadian dollar.
Well, I'm also thinking like some of the smaller like African nations that are just like someone has just taken over, like, it's dollars. And it's just like, this is the currency that everyone knows. So like, sure, it's $28 billion on this one coin, but it's dollars. So I feel like thrones, also just as a game mechanic, we're going to say that everything is called thrones, understanding that system by system that's different, let alone what the actual Imperium would accept.
Right.
Yeah.
So it says they are worth something. It depends on where we go. There are worlds where people mainly barter. There it will be worth considerably less, and we should have, I don't know, brought a pig or something. But generally speaking, yes, they have value.
Okay. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that you're right, and if the Emperor dies, everything goes to shit. Let's talk terms, because I'm not helping you without getting substantially, what's the word I'm looking for?
Rewarded?
Aid?
Rewarded, not so much compensated, let's
Not
say.
given to the black ships?
Yeah, well, that's a given.
Also, I will point out, both as a player and as a character, you've never heard of the Black Ships. You have no idea what the fuck that means. This is not a thing that has ever existed on Galen's Glory.
Yeah. You don't give me up as a fucking psyker or whatever you think I am. And,
Given you're useful, I agree.
and we get paid bi-weekly.
How much would you like to be paid? Let's have this conversation.
5,000 thrones every 2 weeks in the most valuable currency there is.
Well, see, here's an interesting thing. I'd like to jump ahead to the end of this. 5,000 thrones every 2 weeks seems very reasonable. However, thrones will have no value if the Emperor dies. But if the Emperor lives, and you don't betray me, I think we could do perhaps more than you think. I will give you 500,000 thrones a year and a day from today. The Emperor is safe. The Imperium lives. I have all the power of the Inquisition, which, as you've seen, this Astral Line is the least. I can make the Gnashers kneel down while we're shooting them by mentioning the name of my organization.
All right, and what assurances do I have from you?
I don't want the Emperor to die, and the assurance is you saw the vision that was inside my chugging head.
Yeah, but I want to get paid. I need assurances on getting paid.
She's saying she knows that you need us. She wants her own assurances that a year and a day from now, after the Emperor's been saved, what's to stop you from sending us to the black whatevers or, both of us, because we're obviously both psychers.
Oh, my brother's so smart.
He's not a psycho, but he appears to be intelligent. Here's the problem. If I give you an assurance or the money now, you can leave or kill me and take the bearer bond and try to cash it after the Imperium's dead, which would be incredibly stupid, but very possible. You need me to be alive for this to matter, because otherwise we could get into a hairy situation and you could abandon me, and that would be unfortunate.
All right, so you're an Inquisitor. You've probably done some bad shit that maybe the Emperor wouldn't be too proud of or happy with.
Actually, up to this point, I think he'd give me a fair thumbs up. Otherwise, I'd be very dead.
I just need something. I need something to hold over you.
What would you like? What do you think you can blackmail a member of the Inquisition with?
I'm not blackmailing you. I'm trying to make a fair fucking deal. We give you like
Okay, all right. I'm gonna just GM step in here so we don't have a weird barter situation. Because as much as I enjoy a good flea market, I don't know that we necessarily need it all on air.
we need it on air.
Now the carrot. Now the
Otherwise,
players
it's
are
not
on
binding.
top.
Bargain's Corner. I'm your
Agreement is not
GM.
binding if it's not on the podcast.
Tom McGee.
Recorded in full.
Here we have a very fine lamp that could be valuable or not. It doesn't really matter. People are going to argue about it. What I'm going to propose is, what if you code Eugene to them? So if you fuck them over, everything you have ever said or done in the presence of Eugene's Vox recorder goes to them. So basically, you're pledging a black box. Because also, realistically, as far as you're concerned, Valentyne, either this works or the entire universe dies.
Oh yeah, no, I'll take this deal. I just had to have a second to think about it as Valentyne. And the reason why I will share this not with the characters.
No, you can, I think, save it if it's a cool reveal that can happen later. We already have a bunch of cool metagame stuff going on.
All right, great.
You dropped a very tantalizing line earlier that I, Tom McGee, am interested to hear more about, but that can probably come out more dramatically later. But I think we can safely say that because again, if it isn't something you tell them, you don't. So you take a good hard look at Eugene, and you consider the history that you've shared, and you consider what the only thing of value you could give them that isn't something that you actually couldn't function without, like the Imperial, you could give them your like Inquisitional sigil, but like that would kind of kneecap you for the rest of the adventure. So what can you give them that you actually care about?
Great, I can wire Eugene over so that if I ever make... So if I betray you, you can play the recordings. Of anything from this moment forward, honestly, before this conversation wouldn't serve much use for you, and I feel like we'd just be cluttering up a lot of his space. But you'll have proof of my heresy, you'll have proof of the acts that we've undertaken, and you could go and sell me out completely.
All right, but you better commit some fucking heresy along the way. And I like spit in my palm and put my hand out for a handshake.
Am I supposed to do something in return? Is this... I'm sorry, I just don't know what this is.
Shake my fucking hand.
Alto's like, yeah, like this. He spits in his hand and puts it out towards you as well.
Then I spit in both palms and shake their hands separately.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, so we have an Inquisitorial Band. I'm not going to use the term cabal. That's generally used for villains. So we'll stick with band.
I would love for that to be all that happens when you shake hands. It is not. So you say that, you reach out, and as you clasp hands, and I think, Valentyne, just before you do this, you realize that this is probably what's going to happen, but also the concept of atheists is so hypothetical to you from where you're from and from your upbringing and from like closer into the actual Imperium, that also you kind of just need this for her. And so as you clasp her hand, this time it's her more than you, but you watch her eyes roll back inside her head. And Alto, I have a potentially dumb question for you. Do you react as though, like, you know how sometimes people are like, oh no, but also me. Do you think Alto would fake a reaction, or would he just wait expectantly for the psycho reaction to occur?
If he notices Lyric like kind of going somewhere else or anything like that, I think it's just immediate concern.
Right. Okay. Good.
Yeah. And all pretenses fall, and it's like, oh my God, something's happening to my sister.
So you rush over to her. Valentyne, you drop to a knee, but I think at this point now,
I knew it was going to happen. Yeah.
It's starting to get real mitigatable. It's still bad, but it's like a small migraine, not a proper migraine, but like fuck. All right, if I can just get some extra strength Advil, I'll be not out of commission. Whereas for you, Lyric, like you have no training in this. This is completely fucking insane. So as you fall back into the vision yet again, you see the woman, but this time it's harder to see her. Your eyes are focused on someone else. But again, you just see her, and it's so strange because you don't know why Cora would do. You've never seen her make this gesture, and granted, it was a long time ago. But again, she just seems to be really concerned with this corner of her forehead, and seemingly massaging it like she's got a headache. And then you almost see a corner of it peel down, and you see red beneath it. And then suddenly a gregarious man steps in front of your vision. And he is looking at a very fine goblet of some sort. And as he begins to turn it, you realize it's not a goblet. It's a partially caved in skull.
Yeah.
And he just smiles at everyone. He's like, well, I did my part, and I'm very excited to finally taste the rainbow, as it were. Here's to the finest decanted vintage one could possibly encounter. Ha! For the Emperor, am I right? And he looks directly into the skull, and then he drinks from it, and laughs. And it's when he pulls away and laughs that you recognize this man. And it's again from old ads, but he seems to be wearing an outfit that you recognize from ads. His face is different, but you definitely recognize a label. Actually, you recognize the outfit from a label that you have shared with Kel and with any number of people, Taz and a bunch of other people back in the Glory Hole. It is from a liquor brand, a very strong liquor brand called Vicodin.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what's weird is this guy's dressed the same fucking way as the mascot on the logo of that beverage. And as he finishes drinking the Emperor's skull, he tosses it over his shoulder and goes, "Ugh, it's got quite a tang." And then you wake up.
Lyric, you okay?
Yeah. I'm fucking fine. Jesus Christ, another fucking vision in my fucking head.
You're
Jesus
the one
Christ,
who demanded
of course,
that we
being
shake hands.
a local term from Galen's Glory. Jesus Christ was a local magistrate who his name is often taken in vain in local circumstance.
Well, I didn't want to take your hand, Lyric. I told you not to touch me, but you made this part of our binding agreement. So what did you see? We need to choose our first target. Between what you have seen and what I have seen, we need to find the person to go after.
I don't know, like a mascot for Vicodin.
What, the Vicodin guy?
Yeah.
Very funny. Well done, Tyler. Valentyne, you suddenly, again, I feel like in a lot of cases, this is what's going to help things click when you're thinking of your visions. You remember seeing a man with a bushy beard and seemingly in like an overly ornate outfit, like, you know, cape slung over, very like Bail Organa from Star Wars, just like full cape flung over the shoulder in kind of a jaunty tunic, but in profile. However, when they say the Vicodin guy, you're reminded of one of the great rogue traders and one of the great houses. The Vicodin house has been providing liquor to large corners of the Imperium for quite some time. And as you know, keeping the Imperial Guard units in line is often more a case of how much you liquor them up than it is necessarily how much you pay them. And suddenly it all clicks because you remember this man. He is a friend of the Lords of Terra. He is definitely a known quantity. He is the traitor Glasscow Vicodin.
All right. Do I know where I can find this guy? Is he like
So he's a rogue trader.
guy?
So he is a flying through spacey kind of guy. That said, the Vicodin family distillery is kind of the headquarters. I mean, obviously based on the Scottish name and inspiration, we're kind of think of this kind of as like the Glenfiddich or one of these like major old Scotch distilleries in kind of modern Earth, where it's a plant, basically in this case, a planet-wide industry. But he's not guaranteed to be there, but it's a
they'll know how to find him.
Good place to start.
Cool. So then I know the target, and I'm like, excellent. That actually is enough information for me to know who we're going after first. So, Lyric, you can remain here. Rest. Care for your leg. You might want to consider, I don't know, learning to ask for help as sort of a longer-term goal so you don't fall down ladders in future. Alto, it's time for you and I to do some math of how to get through incredibly dangerous space without breaking this shuttle.
So one thing I would ask just for us to consider before you head back to the cockpit, Lyric, you've now seen Cora twice.
Yeah.
And she seems to be involved in this vision in some way, shape, or form. Do you think you would tell Alto, or is this a I will bear this burden alone kind of deal?
I don't want to say anything yet because I don't want Valentyne to know, because I still don't trust that he won't kill us if he sees us more as a liability, and I don't know what this will mean to him. So I don't want to say anything.
I kind of mean this in a Valentyne starts making his way back up to the cockpit to fill Acri in on what's up and maybe see if he can find a star chart that'll like figure it out. So you have like a second alone if you want it.
Yeah, I think I don't want to tell Alto just yet.
Cool. Great.
Yeah. I don't want to put him in an uncomfortable situation.
Cool. How do you allay his very, very well-earned concerns? Because obviously, like, there's a difference between I'm a badass and you can fuck off, and oh, my little brother just watched me like collapse into a weird psychic vision. Also, maybe I'm some kind of weird superhero. What the fuck? Do you do anything, or do you just let him go back to the cockpit?
I just say, like, you know, I'm kind of pissed that you didn't tell me about this.
Who?
But,
Me?
yeah.
What do you mean? I didn't know this would happen.
Well, you know, whatever. You know what? It doesn't fucking matter. It's Kel's fault anyways. Just, like, it's fine. I'm fine. You know I can handle shit. Just don't fucking worry about it. Just,
All right.
like, we're sticking together. We don't trust Valentyne for a second. And we do what we have to do to survive. All right?
Nothing's changed. Okay.
And out of my bag, I pull out the game that I bought for him. He's like, and I don't know. I really fucking hope you brought your console because I got you this.
I didn't. It wasn't in the go bag. You got that for me? I don't have this one.
I mean, I don't think it fucking matters anymore.
No,
like,
no,
no. I mean, like, you're flying a ship. Like, it's
Maybe the
kind
ship
of better
plays
than
games.
a simulator.
Give me the game. Give me the game. It might work.
All
I'll
right.
take the game from her.
Cool. So with that, you kind of like looking at it in the way that someone truly excited about the potential of a game or an unread book has. You kind of like walk back to the cockpit. Valentyne, Acri is quickly kind of running what he's got. And again, his stuff is wildly out of date. But he does. There does seem to be a way to plot course from Tren to the system that the Vicodin distillery is in. But it's still up to the two of you, Alto and Valentyne, where you want to go and how you want to get there. So, what do you do?
All right. Well, we need to get to Tren. I've studied in theory, but I have studied warp rifts and their effect in the material universe, so perhaps I can predict some of the patterns that this rift will take. However, we really want to get around it, and more of the math is going to come down to, can you prevent this shuttle from destroying itself when we change direction and velocity? And that is beyond me.
Sure, no, definitely. Me and Acre, we become fast friends. We can handle it.
Would it help you if I went through and, I don't know, scanned different parts of the ship with the auspex to try to figure out if there were weak points or other things so you could calculate the durability?
I mean, I should be able to run a diagnostic right from here. Give me 2 seconds.
And with that, you plug into the ship, and Acre is like, inside your neural link, not out loud, he's like, hey, listen there, sport. That's right, I'm working my way through all the pet names I have for people I've just met. Sport, I'm a little concerned about this here plan to turn the ship rather abruptly. This vehicle was not built to withstand that kind of centrifugal force, and I really need you to know, champ, that this thing, well, it might just shred apart like wet tissue paper if you try and turn it this quick. I'm not saying you can't try it. Emperor knows I pulled enough dumb stunts back when I was a pilot for the Guard, but just be aware what your friend here is asking is a big risk.
Well, I mean, as I'm learning, he's an Inquisitor, and I don't think we can say no. Besides, I'm kind of excited to see what this thing can do.
Well, listen, kid, if you ever find yourself guilty of some truly horrendous crimes and sentenced to be the sentient brain that helps co-pilot a vessel such as this, well, maybe you'll understand the joy that I feel at you saying those words. Fuck it, let's see what this thing can do. All right, go ahead and roll me a driving check, I guess.
I was going to say, Tom,
Yes,
knowing
sir.
that we're attempting something crazy, I think, Lucius has a lot of faith in the Emperor, but he also believes the Emperor protects those who protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he would collect enough food for like a week's journey and like a pot, and then get everybody into, the cockpit area and kind of close the door to seal off the rest of the ship.
That sounds about right.
That's the most protected.
Great. I'm also, Tyler, for your role, I'm going to give you 1 boost dice from Valentyne's preparations.
Okay.
I'll give you a boost dice from Acre. I'm going to say this is a difficulty of 4. I'm going to spend a story point to turn 2 of them red. This is a truly insane maneuver, but I respect it. That means you have 4 story points available.
Great. We haven't really come across it in our gameplay so far, but I have a talent called Determined Driver. I can spend a story point to heal system strain on a vehicle equal to my ranks in driving. So I was thinking if we basically push the navigation into some truly sort of like lateral thinking, so that it's not driving straight at our destination, but rather like mapping out like a quantum route that doesn't like make sense physically, but if we if you kind of like smack the computer a little bit, it's like, oh no, those calculations work.
Sure. Yeah. The Han Solo
Tokyo drifting with sublight drives.
Yeah.
Vermeer drifting. Yeah, man. The ship doesn't have any strain on it because I haven't actually tracked its stats. But I will say, in the same way we've been talking about using story points in this game, the way we use stress in D&D, 100%.
Basically, I want to offset the physical strain on the hull
Yep.
by front loading it on the systems and then like repairing them, kind of like doing damage and repairing as I go through.
100%. Yeah, that makes sense. Basically, I mean, to quote our dear pal Buzz Lightyear, you're falling with style. It's just, I'm gonna fucking jam this thing, and it's not about like, oh, fire the retro rocket to this point. It's like, oh no, like if we hit gravity hard enough, we'll bounce off it and then
we'll
crumble
like
this
slingshot
way.
it. Yeah.
Great. Okay, cool. So in that case, I'll give you a difficulty of 3. 2 of them are still red, but difficulty of 3 and
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And some other like narrative bonuses that aren't related to dice.
Okay. And that goes up as well. Okay, great. 1 success, 3 advantage.
Nice.
Fuck yeah, man, not bad. All right, so you make some quick calculations. Acri kind of helps, but basically, once you determine that the goal is not to pilot this vehicle on that trajectory, but just to arrive on the planet in some way, shape, or form, you proceed to execute a series of maneuvers that completely wreck the ship. And by the end of it, sure enough, it's just pretty much the cockpit and a little bit of the neck of the fuselage. As you see the rest of the ship kind of get torn on your third little like random blast, you just see a chunk of hull float past with a fried one-armed corpse hanging from netting. And it almost seems like Sheila is just waving goodbye as you make your final, your sort of like last targeted blast, where essentially you, like, this is all
I
very
think they're like controlled explosions.
Yeah, it's the Martian. We're just doing the Martian. So yeah, as you blow out your final engine to put yourself in the trajectory for entry vector, the cockpit basically begins to tumble through the atmosphere. But you rolled very well. You got a bunch of advantage. So the emergency sort of like thermal chutes are deployed. And sure enough, as Valentyne would say, through the will of the Emperor, as you would say, through some cool piloting, and as Lyric would say, through blind fucking luck, what's left of the Emperor's hope begins its slow, controlled descent.
After like the setting off explosions that maybe I didn't explain either. Like I think after really scaring Lyric and Valentyne, but the map, the nomical, I can't remember. The astronav shows that we are on course to arrive at Tren, and that like we like all systems in the cockpit are like nominal, like we have life support and everything. After everything stops shaking and all the klaxons stop, I'll just turn to Valentyne and like hold out the game and be like, do you think this thing plays games?
It's the will of the Emperor. Plug it in.
Cool.
And then just as the ship begins to breach the atmosphere, you hear Acri say, "Oh, cool! I haven't played this one. This is amazing." And the two of you enjoy a few rounds of spaceship as the actual spaceship you just piloted falls onto the death world of Tren.
This episode of the Valentyne Heresy features Ryan LaPlante at the Ryan LaPlante on Twitter as Inquisitor Lucius Valentyne, Tyler Hewitt at Tyler_Hewitt on Twitter as Alto, Laura Elizabeth at EL Hamstring on Twitter as Lyric, and our Game Master Tom McGee at McGeeTD on Twitter. This episode was edited by Ryan LaPlante, and the Valentyne Heresy show logo was created by Decapitated Markers at Decapitated Marker on Twitter. That's MRKR. Our theme song is The Hordes by by Megan McDuffie, and our ads use the tracks No Control and Chiefs by Jazzar, JAHZZAR, provided by freemusicarchive.org. When it comes to Dum Dums and Dice, you can visit our website at dumdumdice.com. Our Twitter and Instagram are at dumdumdice, and on Facebook at facebook.com/dumdumdice. We have merchandise available at redbubble.com/people/dumdumdice, and most importantly, you can join our Patreon at patreon.com/dumdumdice. That's DUMBDICE. Ave Imperator, and death to all the heretics.
Dum Dums and Dice has to give a special thank you to the supreme beings of our Patreon at this time: Christian Menicola, Long, the Half-Blind Prophet, James Cuellar, DM Rob, Christopher Little, Olin Anderson, Sue One, Devin Boyce, George Dolby, One True Artistry, Orion Birchfield, Anthony Griffin, and Jill and Noel LaPlante. If you want your name to be added to this list, you can join our Patreon too at patreon.com/dumdumdice. Thanks to them, and a little bit of thanks to you.